interacts with the page, it does not interact with this thing actually. What it interacts with is something different. That is, we need to see this view page source. Now Selenium is able to understand this source, right? Now it is taking a bit time here as well. CNN site is very slow. So this Selenium understands this thing, right? Now there are a lot of things. Now we don't know where what thing is, right? So what we can do is we can go back to the page. We can right click here on the element. For example, I would like to analyze this, say entertainment, right? I'll right click here, go to inspect. Now a window would open. This window is called as developer tools window, right? Now here on this window you can see that there is something highlighted, right? Now you may be able to see this kind of window, or you may be able to see this kind of window, right? Karthi, are you able to see content?
Yeah, I can.
Gaurav, you can do one thing. You can rejoin the meeting. Let me just do one thing first. I hope so. Now you are able to see the content. Is the content visible now? I think so. Gaurav is not able to see the content. So here, just a second, yeah. So it may be visible to you something like this. No need to worry. And in many browsers or in many systems, it may be visible something like this. So these are the different ways we can see this. I'll keep it like this for a while, right? Now the element that we need, right, is here. Which is that element? This is the element that we need, right? Now if I right click over this element, I can inspect it and it will highlight the element here. There is another way of locating a element on the page as well. That is, click here on this button, right? This will become blue. Now if you move your cursor over to that element will get highlighted, right? Now this is a inspector mode where it inspects the element, right? And it locates the element on the HTML code, right? For example, I would like to go to entertainment. So here in entertainment, this is the element, right? Now this is the element that Selenium would be able to understand, right? Now what are the different kinds of elements on the page? So if we notice something, let me just move it on a separate window now. So this is the element. Let me just make the text a bit larger. It has become a whole lot larger. Just a second. Right? So somewhere over here, this is the element. Now you may notice something. There are few things. Now here, as you guys can see that there is a, say, conical bracket, then A is written, right? Then something else is written, that is mode, type, right? So there are few other things written as well. Now the question is, what are these things, right? So over here, A, this is a tag name, right? Now whenever there is something with the bracket, right, the moment the bracket is started and there is something written, not any kind of bracket, only this bracket, right, a conical bracket. Now over here, if I type A, this means that the tag name is A, right? So tag name, right? Now tag name is an object on the page, right, which has some criteria, right? Now what is the criteria? So over here there are few things. For example, there is a type, right? There is a name, then there is href, right? Then there are other things as well. Now over here, what are these things? These things are the attributes, or you can say that properties of that tag, right? So this means that they specify some specific property of that element, right? A speciality of that element, right? It can be anything. For example, right now the type of this element is collapsed, right? Now over here, let me just wash these things out, right? So the type is collapsed, the name is entertainment, right? href say entertainment, right? Then title this. Now over here, these are the properties of this tag which tells us that what all things it does. Now on the screen it looks something like this, right? We can click on it and this will be done. Now as I said earlier, these are the objects. This means that there are different types of objects. As you can see on your screen, there is a list item, then there is a nav, right, div. So there are different types of objects on the page. Now let us just have a sheet here, so which in which we can say see that what all things we can say do with objects here, right? And what all things actually the object does and they require, right? So I'll create a new sheet, and it will take a little bit time. Okay, so over here, what all things we are going to have? First thing first, the objects, right? So we'll be having the objects. Now what tag name is for that object? So tag name. Then say, is there any mandatory attribute? See, there are some mandatory attributes sometimes. So mandatory attribute, right? And here next thing, say optional attributes, right? So we have these things. Now let us just see what all things we need, right? So there are different types of objects. For example, say text fields, right? Then there are buttons, then there is a radio, right? Then there are checkboxes, right? And there are links. Then say there is a drop down, right? So here we have a drop down. Then there are some text fields. Whenever we retrieve some data, we have that text field as well, right? Okay, text field is already specified. Say there is some text on the page as well, right? So this is done. Now say there are images. So these are the things that we may have, right? Now say coming to the text fields. So would I be able to have a text field here? Gaurav, I'll come to the videos as well. So here, okay, let me just mention videos as well. So here, coming on to this page, right now we don't have a text field, right? So let us just move forward, and I'll be taking up some other page where we have more things. So first thing first, say we were analyzing this entertainment, right? Entertainment is a link, right? As you guys can see that over here, if I click here, I will be taken to a page that is an entertainment page, right? And it has started to do work for that, and it is taking me to the entertainment page. It will take a little bit time, but yes, it will be taking me to that particular page, right? So over here, okay, why it is taking a lot of time? CNN is very slow, right? Okay, till that time let us just analyze something. So we are being taken to the entertainment page, and here on this element, if you notice something, this is the element A, right? Now whenever there is a link, it is being denoted by something that is a anchor tag, right? So where are links? These are the links. It is denoted by an anchor tag. Now is there any mandatory attribute? Now whenever we have an anchor tag, you would notice something, that there is a mandatory attribute, that is href. Wherever there is an anchor tag, you would find href attribute, right? So over here, this is an important thing. Now in case if you don't provide it, the link won't work. Okay, so here let us just specify this here, right? This is about the link. Now say next thing is text. Now here text can be denoted by a lot of things. It can be denoted by, say, div tag. It can be denoted by paragraph tag, right? It can be denoted by span tag and a lot of other tags, and anchor tag as well. The thing is that that text is a link, but yes, we can provide text, right? Is there any mandatory attribute? No, there is no mandatory attribute for text. Are there any optional attributes? We'll discuss about the optional attributes in some time. Let us just first discuss about mandatory attributes. Now moving forward, as this page does not provide us a lot of things, let us just move to a page which would provide us a lot other information, right? Say we would be going to facebook.com. Now on this page you would find that there are a lot of the things. There are text boxes, there are buttons, right? There are links, then there is some text as well, right? And say there are drop downs, there are radio buttons. Let us just analyze this particular page, right? For example, this is a text box. If I right click here, if I inspect it, you would notice something. This text box is actually a input tag, right? Now this input tag has some information, right? Now let us just first jot this down, right? This is a input tag. Now is there any mandatory attribute? Now whenever there is a text field, there is a mandatory attribute, and that mandatory attribute is that is type equals to text. This denotes that this particular element is of text box type, right? So type equals to text, which is mandatory, right? Now let us just move forward. Now there are buttons, right? So here, coming back to the page, you would see that there are two buttons. First one is the login button, second one is the sign up button. So let us just right click on the sign up button, click on inspect, and here, as you guys can see, that this is a button, right? Now over here the tag name is button. So button, right? And there is another type as well. So if we go back onto the Facebook page, I'll right click here, go to inspect. You can see that there is input as well. Okay, so majorly we deal with the input one. Okay, so button comma input, right? Now whenever there is an input say tag, there is a mandatory attribute type equals to not text this time it is, let us just see. So what is it? It is submit, right? Type equals to submit. So over here we are done with this. Now say whenever it comes to button, right? So right click here, go to inspect. You would see that the type here is also submit, right? So just a tag name difference, the action is same, the work is same, right? Now coming back to this page again, now what's next? So over here we know about the text fields now, we know about the buttons now. Next thing is radio button, right? So on this page we have the radio buttons as well. If I right click here, go to inspect, you would see that there is a tag of type input, right? And the type is radio, right? So this is simple. This is also an input tag, right? So we can specify here input tag. Now what is the type? The type is radio. This specifies that this particular element is of type radio button, and it would be showing us that this is the radio, right? Now next thing, the drop downs, right? So as you guys can see that on your screen we have a drop down button, right? And this contains some values, right? So here in the drop down, what all things we need, right? What is the element that denotes a drop down? Right click here, go to inspect, and you can see that this time the drop down is of type select. It is not an input tag, it is a select tag, right? So drop down select. Now here the mandatory attribute. Now with the drop down there is no mandatory attribute, right? So you can simply move forward and say we are left with something checkbox. Checkbox is of type input, and right now we cannot see a checkbox here, but yes, the type for this is checkbox, right? So type equals to checkbox, right? So whenever there is a checkbox on the page, it will be denoted by input tag, and the mandatory attribute is checkbox. Okay. So here next thing, say we are done with drop down. Drop downs are of type select tag, right? There is no mandatory attribute. Then the images. Now whenever there is an image, it will be denoted by something. Let us just see what it will be denoted by. And here if I analyze this, this is the image, right? I'll click here, this image is denoted here. Now this image is of type img tag, right? So the tag name is img. Then the next thing is source. What is the source, right? So source is this. Now whenever there is an image tag, there needs to be a source because we need to retrieve the image as well. So this is the image. Let us just open it in a new tab. So this is the image that Facebook has shown to us here, right? So this means that we need this tag, right? So the source attribute is needed here. Source attribute would provide the image address, right? So we can specify there is a mandatory attribute source. Done. Now over here, let us just come to optional attributes. So these are the things. Okay, one thing is left, videos tag. Videos are denoted by, in HTML5 they are denoted by something that is video tag, and the say mandatory attribute is again src, that is source, right? But there should be a video path, not a image path. For example, say mp4, right? So you should provide a mp4 path here. So we are done with these. Now say coming to the optional attributes. Now whenever there is an element, there are chances that there are some optional attributes specified as well, right? Now coming to this particular page, for example, I would like to have access to this first name, right? Now right click here, inspect it, you would see that this is the element of type input, right? The type is text. Then there are some optional things. There is class, there is name, there is ID. Now these three attributes are the optional attributes that we can provide, right? So here say ID, class, and say name, right? So all the elements on the page can have these attributes, right? So these attributes, what do these attributes specify? Out of these three attributes, two specify some specific information, right? Say if we go back and notice this, say we have class text which has some say text written here, but if we go to the name, name tells us that what is the name of this element, right? The name of this element is first name, right? So over here, just a second, Gaurav is asking something. Major objects have been covered, but I have one doubt. What do we do for dryer? See Gaurav, that is not a HTML basic element. The HTML direct element, we'll come to that as well, right? So we'll discuss it in some time. Now here we have the ID, right? So here we have got the name, we have got the ID. For this element we have the name as first name, the ID is u_0_m, right? Now these things are usually considered the unique values, right? Say name and ID. For example, let us just try accessing some other element, say the surname, right? Now surname has the name, last name, and it has the ID u_0_o, right? So we are getting these things here. Now Facebook, regarding Facebook is very careful about such things. They don't want automation tools to perform any kind of automation on their pages. So the reason we cannot find a good ID name here is this, that they don't want us to perform automation. That is why they have kept a random name over here in ID, but they have provided a say usable thing, a unique name over here in the name field, right? A unique value in the name field. Now we would be using these things, we would be making use of these attributes to locate this element on the page, right? So there is a element with the name first name. We will be trying to access this element and we will be getting access to this particular element here on the page with the code, right? So whenever we deal with some element on the page, whenever we deal with objects, we need to have something with us. We need to understand one thing. So let us just go to seleniumhq.org, and here on this page, if we go to the download section and if we scroll down, we will be able to see API docs. Let us just go to API docs. Right now, here, whenever there is a say element on the page, we deal with that element with the help of something that is web element. Right? Web element is an interface which provides us few things, and it is taking a bit time. So let us just wait for this to open. So here, web element interface. Now this provides us something that we can deal with. So web element interface provides us some methods. Say click, right? Then say we get location, we can get the location of the element on the page. Then we can get the tag name, we can get the text, right? We can check whether the element is displayed on the page or not, right? And say whether the element is selected or not, or the main thing, that is say whether we can send some data to this, right? So send keys is the method which allows us to simulate the typing into the element, right? We can send some text to this, right? Now whenever we make use of web element, we use something that is say a by class. Now what is a by class? By class provides us the ways how we can locate the element on the page, right? So this provides us the mechanisms so that we can find the element on the page. So if we scroll down here, you can see that these are the mechanisms that we can use. Say class name, we can locate an element with its class name. We can locate an element with its CSS selector. Then we can locate an element with its ID, link text, name, partial link text, tag name, or XPath. So these are the mechanisms we can use to locate the element on the page, right? Now let us just make use of these things. So here I'll create a new project, and this is say day 4. Now I have created a project, but I have not added the Selenium jars. So we can add these things here. Right click properties, then say Java build path, right? Libraries, add external jars, and we need to select all these jar files along with the main jars. So make sure that you add all the jars inside the libs directory as well. This allows the Selenium to work smoothly, otherwise you won't be able to perform many things and you will get confused that why Selenium is not working properly. Click on apply and close. This is done. Now here I'll create a new class. The class name is Facebook, right? Now the first thing we need here is a main method. So let us just add a main method. This has been added. Now the next thing, we need to have say browser initialized. So Chrome driver, or better use web driver, right? So web driver equals to new Chrome driver, right? So here this is done. Now the next thing is going to that particular page, driver.get, and the link is this https www.facebook.com, right? So this is done. Now next thing is locating the element on the page, right? So how would we be able to locate the element and retrieve that element here? So driver dot find element. This allows us to find the element on the page. Now we need to provide a locating strategy, right? So by class, and by with which thing, say we would be specifying name, right? So what is the name? The name is first name, right? Now we have got the element here. We need to store it somewhere so that we can make use of it. The way we can store it is like this: web element, say we can allocate a name, and the name is, say, first name field, right? This way we have retrieved the element and we have stored it in the first name field, right? Now first thing first, we have got the element. What all things we can do with it, right? So coming back to this web element here, you would see that there are the things that we can do, right? Now what I'll be trying to do is, suppose I want to get the location of this element on the page, right? So location of the element, right? So for that, what we need to do, first name field dot get location. Now whenever there is a location, it may be denoted in 3 different ways. Let us just see that. So I'll just print out everything here directly, right? If we specify get location, this will provide us location in some format. Then we have another option as well, say system.out.println first name field dot get location dot x, right? I can specifically specify as well whether I want x or y, right? And in the same way I can have access to y as well. So first name field dot get location dot y. Now let us just try running this, whether it is able to locate the element or whether it is not able to. And maybe I have provided something wrong information. Let us just see that. First name was the name that I had to specify, and this is what I have specified here as well. So facebook.com has opened, it is loading, and once the page load is complete, it will be telling us that where exactly the element resides on the page, right? Now coming back to this, you would see 764.201 is the thing that is that is printed. Then we have got 764 and then we have got 201. Now what does this mean? See over here, whenever we get a location, right, we get this in this format: x comma y. These are the coordinates, right? So how it works, suppose this is the element on the page, right? Consider this page. Now what is the 0 0 coordinate? Now the point here, the top left corner on the page, let me just show it like this. The top left corner of the page would have the coordinate 0 comma 0, right? Now this is x comma y, right? Now whenever we move to the right side, right, so the coordinates would increase. For example, these would become something like this, say 100 comma 0, right? What does this mean? Just a second, you're not able to read it, I feel like. So 100 comma 0, right? So what is this thing? Now 100 is the x coordinate and 0 is the y coordinate. this means that x increases horizontally, right? Or you can say that x increases in right direction. Now this also means that if we go downward, what would happen is x would stay 0, right? So it would be 0, but y would increase or decrease. In case of Selenium, it would increase. In case of math, it would decrease, right? So here we are in Selenium, it will be increasing, right? For example, x coordinate is still 0, but as we have gone down a bit, the y coordinate is 70, right? So here x and say y, right? So this is done. Now this means that some element somewhere over here, right? For example, our first name field, it will have some x coordinate, it will have some y coordinate. So these are the coordinates that we are receiving here. 764 is our x coordinate, y coordinate is 201, right? So on this page, these are the 764 pixels, and these are from here, not here, but from here, right? The page is starting at this particular point, right? Say just above email or phone. So it is how many pixels down? 201 pixels down, right? So this part is done. We have got the access to this. Now what all things we can do with it? As we learned earlier, as we saw earlier, this provides us a method to say simulate the typing into an element. Let us just try this. So here what we would be doing is we would be trying to say fill in something inside this. So how we can do that? First name element field dot send keys, and what I would be trying to fill in is this, that is say some name, right? Say A B C D E F G H, right? So if I try running this, let us just see that Control F11 is the shortcut key in the keyboard that I use to execute the code. No need to click here on the green play button. This will do the thing automatically, right? Now here Facebook is opening, and if you notice something, once the page load is complete, it will be typing in first name here, that is A B C D E F G H, right? Now in the same way, this means that we can say type something in the surname field as well, right? So let us just do the same things for the surname field as well, right? So here say web element surname field equals to driver dot find element by name, not class name, the name. So by name. Now what is the name? Let us just see that here. Let us just analyze the page here. Right click, inspect. Now the name is last name, right? So here I'll provide the last name. So in the code, the element's name is last name, and this has been retrieved. Now in the same way, we can get the location. We can get x coordinate specifically, or we can get say y coordinate specifically. Let us just try retrieving the location. So system.out.println and surname field dot get location, right? Now here we have got the location. Then we can try sending them some data as well. So surname field dot send keys, and the data that I would like to send is this, say x, y, z, right? Control F11. We'll just try executing this code now. So over here, this code is executing. It will be taking a bit time, and here it will be trying to type in something in first name and something in the surname, right? Or you can say that last name. So these things are done. Now if we go back to the code, you would see something, say 764 201 969 201. Now what are these locations, right? So here we have got the location, but this is not the whole element, right? This location is the point from top left corner of the screen to top left corner of the element, right? This means that here the element is actually, the location that we have got is actually this point and this point, right? So this is done. Now this means that we can try accessing this element as well, we can try accessing this element as well, and we can try accessing these two things as well, right? Now let us just do one thing. Let us just try filling in these things. Okay, so these things are filling in these things is very easy now, right? Right click over the element, go to inspect. Now the name here is email, right? The ID here is also email. Now we'll try accessing the element with its ID, right? So over here we are done with these things. Now web element. Okay, one more thing. Right now I'm just specifying web element again and again. The reason was that we wanted to reuse that element again and again. What if we don't want to reuse that element? Then what we can do is we can simply specify something, that is driver dot find element by, say, ID. Right now we want to locate the element with its ID. The, say, ID is email, right? So let us just see that yes, the ID is email, right? So email. Now this is usually what we do with the element to locate it. Now after specifying this command, I won't be specifying semicolon, I'll specify something that is dot. Now these are the same methods that we were getting with the web element name, right? We were getting with the web element type field. So actually this is retrieving the web element here. We were just allocating that element here, right, to the reference. Now this reference was pointing to this element and all the things were done here. Now instead of allocating it to a, say, reference, we are just using it directly. So these are the methods that we can work with, all the same methods. Now I can try sending in the data again. So send keys, and here say we'll send some data, say ABC. I'll hit F11 and this will try to send in the data again, right? So over here it is typing in the data. Let us just see what happens. And if you notice something, it will be retrieving in the element and it will just try to send the data that we wanted. Okay, ABC has been sent here, right? Now you may be having a question in your mind, what if there are two elements on the page with the same name or say with the same ID? What would happen, right? So Selenium by default, what it does is whenever it finds the first element, it simply accesses that element only, right? It is a by default behavior of Selenium, and it gets access to the first element, it never comes to know about the next element, right? So we can, this means that only the first element with the same name or same ID would be accessed, right? Now what if we want access to the second one? For that we'll be learning the different ways how we can use the make use of Selenium to locate that element and work with that. But right now let us just deal with the first available element only, right? Now we are done retrieving these things. We are done retrieving email, password, right? We have not retrieved password. We can retrieve the password as well. That is not a big deal. Right click here, inspect, and you can see that the name is passed, the ID is also passed, right? Now over here, the next thing, say what all things we can do, right? So we have tried to retrieve in the text fields, that is okay. What about the links, right? So there is a link on the page, forgotten account. If I right click here, you would see that this is of type anchor tag, right? Can we get access to this element? See, there is no ID specified, there is no name specified, right? This means that right now if I try to access this element, I may not be able to access it, right? Let us just do one thing. Let us just try to copy this text, whatever is here, right? So over here it won't allow me to copy the text. Just a second, it will open the link. Okay, this is the link that we need. I'll just close here, and here what I'll try to do is I'll try retrieving in this element. Okay, so driver, okay, we'll try printing in the location directly. So driver dot find element by, now what is the locating strategy we would be using? Say link text. What is the link text? So this is the link text, right? If it is retrieved, then see over here, find element is the method. It is starting here, it is ending here, right? Link text is a method. It is starting here, it is ending here. This means that if we want to specify something, we need to specify it here just before the last bracket, because this println is also a method. So inside this I'll specify get location, right? I'll just try getting its location. Control F11. This will open the page. This will try to locate the element with the same text, and if there is a link text same, right, it will be trying to provide the location of that element. See, it may fail. It is not guaranteed that this thing will work. Let us just see that, right? And as you guys can see that I provided something, it is not able to locate that, right? So it is not able to locate element with the selector, this thing, right? Maybe the link has changed, maybe the way I'm trying to retrieve the element is changed, right? So we cannot retrieve the elements with the with this thing, right? But yes, there is a way out with which we can try retrieving the elements. So in the next lecture we will be discussing about these things, how we can locate the elements which does not possess any name or ID or class name. We'll learn about that, how we can retrieve those elements as well, right? So this was for today's lecture. If you have any queries, you can feel free to ask. Okay, one thing Gaurav was asking about drawer, right? So Gaurav, what kind of drawer you're talking about? What kind of field?
Actually, I'm talking about the drawer like
most of the website having a home button, and whenever we click on it home button, it shows us multiple options. It's just pop-up menu which
Okay,
gets pop-up.
so
Yeah.
just a second. You are talking about something like this here. Just a second. Uh, it will take a little bit time. Okay, so Gaurav, are you talking about these things?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the same thing, right? Now, whenever you want to retrieve some element, right? For example, here, right? I'll consider, say, golf clubs. In golf clubs, I would like to retrieve the element set of irons, right? I can simply right click here, go to inspect, and you can see something here that this is the element on the HTML code. Right now it is taking a bit time. So this is the element on the HTML code which has the span tag and it has the class name, right? The parent element is anchor tag, so we can have access to this element, right? It is just about having a locator strategy which would allow us to have access to this particular element, right? So in the next lecture we'll be learning about these strategies. We'll be learning about XPath, how we can work with XPaths to locate such elements, those who do not possess anything specific, that is, say, the unique thing, that is, say, name or ID, right? Any other queries?